Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be giving you 5 ways to increase the performance and the longevity of your fragrance, and the reason why potentially they might not be performing as well as you'd like. So just before we get on with this list, guys, remember, if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to drop a like in this video. Please don't forget to subscribe as well. We're growing a really nice fragrance community full of people that love to talk about fragrances. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then please feel free to join the community as well by subscribing. And yeah, guys, sorry for not uploading for a few weeks. As some of you may know, I have recently just moved house, so I've just been kind of getting everything set up. I haven't got any of my equipment apart from my camera, which is unpacked at the minute, and a few different fragrances that I can showcase in videos. So with that said, we are going to kick things off with the first tip I can give you, and that is to wear the right fragrance for the right sort of season, the right sort of occasion. So what I mean by that is what most people do when they categorize fragrances. If you really strip it down, you've got summer fragrances and you've got winter fragrances. Now, whenever I talk about that on the channel, sometimes people are quite confused with what I mean by that. And I'd probably say the easiest way I can explain this to you is if I show you 2 fragrances here. You've got this one here, which is Montal Arabian's Tonka, and the other one is Creed's Millésime Impérial. Completely different fragrances, both really cool bottle designs. Creed's Millésime Impérial, people call this a summer fragrance. The reason why is it's quite light, it's quite citrusy, and it's very bright and refreshing. Whereas this one here, Montal Arabian's Tonka, is considered a winter fragrance because it's quite oody, it's got quite a lot of oud, and it's very sweet as well. So if you wore this in the summertime, it would project way too good and it could start to annoy people. Whereas if you wore this in the wintertime, you might not be able to smell it. Now, the reason why is heat actually helps to project the fragrance. So whenever you put it onto your pulse points, which is something we'll talk about, and the right way to apply them, is when you have a fragrance like this, which is quite light, you need the heat for it to pump out and for it to actually project. If you wore this in the wintertime, I'm not saying you can't wear it in the wintertime, I actually wore this a few days ago, but if you did wear this in the wintertime, it's not going to project and it's not going to have the same kind of effect that it does in the summertime because of the heat. So this thing kind of struggles with that. Whereas this fragrance here is an absolute beast just in general in terms of performance longevity. It's probably one of the best ones that I've got for that. This, even though, like we said, the actual profile of it, like how sweet it is, this suits the winter time better because of how strong it is, and you actually don't really need the heat to help it project and have the longevity, which is why it's good for winter time, because with the colder weather, it can help lift off your skin without needing the heat. Whereas if you wore this thing in the summertime and you've got the heat on it, it's going to project way too much and it's just going to come way too sweet. So first of all, the first thing is you need to realize, what is the right season for the fragrance. Is it a summertime fragrance or is it a wintertime fragrance? The best way you can kind of tell is the lighter ones are more for the summertime where it needs the heat, whereas the ones for the wintertime are a little bit more sweet, they're a little bit stronger, and they don't need the heat to project. So that's the first thing, is make sure that your fragrance is suited for the right season, for the right occasion. The second tip that I can give you, this sounds like a really strange one, but when you're hydrated or when your skin's hydrated, it's not as dry and it gives the fragrance something else. So a quick kind of test I can give for you is spray a fragrance onto your hand, leave it for a few hours, and then go to the tap and then really quickly put your hand underneath the tap and you'll be able to smell the fragrance again. And that's just because I don't know the science behind it, but I think the perfume oil and all that stuff is kind of reacting with the water and it's helping it lift out. So what we really want to do is to try and get as much kind of moisture and as much sort of hydration in your skin to help the fragrance lift and project. So it all kind of comes down to sort of how much water you have. I try and have at least 2 liters a day. And I found that whenever my skin's quite dry in my pulse points, which is again something we'll talk about in the next point on how to apply, but I find that whenever I don't drink that 2 liters of water a day, I do sort of sometimes see quite a difference in the projection and the longevity of my fragrance because my skin's a lot drier, and it's just absorbing that fragrance instead of helping it to push out. I hope that makes sense. Third way is, like I said, applying the fragrance correctly. So there's a lot of debate on this, and there's a lot of different sort of spray routines that you go with. Personally, I like to go with 5 to 7. I mean, if a fragrance really isn't working for you, you can spray a lot more. But what I typically like to do is I have to move my hat out of the way. I don't want to show my hair because it's absolutely terrible, but I'll do 2 behind one ear, 2 behind the other, so just kind of like in this area. And then I'll spray once, twice on the back of the neck. And then if I really want to, I'll spray 2 kind of on my collarbone. So I'll lift my shirt up and I'll spray 1, 2, and then 1, 2 by there. And you can continue to go, and you can do like some on your clothes, on the shoulders, and I always do 1 on my hand as well, just to kind of test the fragrance. So I've given you a nice little tip there, and that is to double spray. So I found that whenever I single spray a fragrance, I don't get the best projection longevity. So if you think about it, logically, if you're spraying it twice, technically you're getting, twice the projection than what you would from the 1 spray. And that all comes down to, sort of where you cover it. If you've got like extra coverage, then the fragrance is going to potentially last a little bit longer and get a little bit more longevity. Okay, the fourth thing is making sure that you scrub off the existing fragrance or any sort of moisturizer or like scented moisturizer or anything like that the night before. So, or, just before you apply it. So make sure that, for me, in the morning is whenever I spray my fragrances. The night before, I'll get hot water and I'll get like a sponge or a flannel or whatever, and I'll make sure that I completely scrub off the fragrance with hot water to obviously, open up your pores and really try and get rid of that fragrance that I used for the previous day, so that the next day I've got clear skin and that my pores have, completely got rid of that fragrance, or as best as I can, so that whenever I apply the next fragrance, it's not interfering and my skin is clean and it's ready for the new fragrance. So that's another way that I can give you. If you can, you want to try and use a fragrance-free like face wash or body wash, so that whenever everything's kind of clean, the fragrance from the shower gel or whatever isn't interfering with your fragrance. So that's another tip I can give you, is always make sure the area that you're applying is clean, or you've kind of prepped it, if that makes any sense. The fifth thing I can give you is making sure that you're moisturized as well the night before. So not only are you scrubbing off, all the existing fragrances, making sure it's clean, but what I like to do and what I find works quite well for me is using a moisturizer the night before. So like we said with the dry skin, we want to kind of eliminate that as best we can. And the way that I do that is the night before, I will apply some moisturizer after I do kind of my night routine with my face. I will apply, and you can use kind of any moisturizer here. I just use this one because it says it's fragrance free. And that's kind of the best tip I can give you, again, is making sure that if you do put a moisturizer on the night before, in the kind of pulse points, which are, by the way, behind both ears, the neck, and also the collar. The reason why we do them is because they're the pulse points. And we use the moisturizer to get rid of the dry skin. And again, I just put them in the same pulse points. And then the morning after, what I'll then do is scrub off the moisturizer, and then I'll apply the new fragrance for the next day. And guys, the final tip I can give you, this is probably the most powerful one. So make sure that you've done all these previous steps before that. This final one will take your fragrance, this example here, Millésime Impérial. If I do the 4 first steps, but I miss out the 5th one, I'll get something like 4 to 5 hours of longevity of this before it becomes a complete skin scent. But if I use tip 5, which is to use Vaseline, I can make this fragrance last like 8 hours just because of using the Vaseline. So the way that I do this is, I wish I knew this so much sooner in my kind of fragrance journey. And that is using Vaseline after the 4 steps previously. So like I said, make sure that you kind of prep your skin the night before. The next morning then, you want to go to the bathroom, whatever, go to your shower room, whatever, and you want to scrub down all the moisturizer that you put on the night before, so that now you know, your skin's completely clear, it's completely clean. Dry it off, and then what you want to do is get like a tiny, tiny little bit of Vaseline, just a little bit. You don't need a lot, like literally like a tiny fingertips worth. And then you just want to sort of rub it onto the back of your ears, back of your neck, and then you want to, like I said, spray the fragrance 1-2, and the Vaseline from that is going to really kind of hold the fragrance there. It's not going to let it sort of evaporate too much. It kind of gives it like this extra sort of sticky layer to help sort of project out for the whole day. Sometimes I find though that it doesn't help the fragrance to project longer, but it kind of sticks and it helps it last a bit longer. So throughout the day, whenever like you're heating up and it hits your pulse points and you've got the Vaseline on with the fragrance, you can really feel the difference, and you can really kind of smell the difference of how longer lasting this does. And in my opinion, and from my experience, it almost doubles the longevity of your fragrance. So give this a try. You can use, you know, any sort of like petroleum jelly. Vaseline just happens to be the one that I use because it's fragrance free. It also does help to protect your skin as well, because as we know, alcohol is present in fragrances. It has got alcohol content in there, and that does dry up your skin. So I kind of use this as like a, not only for, you know, projection longevity, but also just to kind of protect my skin whenever I'm spraying on like alcohol content on there. So they're the 5 tips I can give you. Make sure that your skin is clear. Make sure that you drink enough water each day. I mean, diet does sometimes come down to it, but it's not a big issue. 3 is making sure that you're applying the fragrance the right way into the pulse points. You can spray it on clothes, but I prefer to spray it on the skin. The 4th way was to moisturize. Make sure that it's moisturized the night before, and then scrub it off just before you do apply it. And then the 5th thing was making sure that you apply the Vaseline before you put the fragrance on. I used to do it the other way around, where I used to spray the fragrance and then I used to put the Vaseline over it. And I don't like to do that because even though the fragrance is going directly onto your skin, it won't project because it's got the layer of Vaseline on it. Whereas the other way around, when you've got the layer of Vaseline there and you spray the fragrance, it kind of goes into the Vaseline first, and then it helps like kind of project out from the heat from your skin. So they're the 5 ways. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember, as always, if you did enjoy this video and you did find it helpful, please don't forget to drop a like. If you guys have any more tips and tricks for how to make your fragrance last longer, I'd be interested. I'm sure a lot of other people would be interested. So please don't forget to comment down below if you do know any. Remember guys, don't forget to drop a like on this video if it helped. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to be part of a really nice fragrance community. We would be more than happy to have you. Videos should start to appear a little bit more frequently now that I'm moved in and I'm sort of settling. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.